Tom Lee is doing his thing yet again. He's picked out a stock that has a high probability to explode in 2025. Don't worry about subscribing, tapping the like button, or looking for the coaching and Discord link. I want to dive right into Tom Lee's video right now, and then I'm going to break it down for you and explain exactly what he's talking about and show you how to get into this stock. Let's listen to what Tom Lee has to say.
Now, the S&P tech sector closing at a record today, and the Dow closed higher for the fourth straight day, its longest winning streak in nearly a month. Joining us now is Fundstrat Global Advisors Head of Research Tom Lee. He is also a CNBC contributor. Happy holidays to you, Tom. Thank you for being here. I want to ask you about the animal spirits, because I was reading in the producer's notes that you believe they come back next year. What species of animals come back, and were they hibernating this year? Because we saw some species out in full force in 2024. So I'm curious which ones you think will be in full force in 2025.
What I'm thinking about with animal spirits, and it's a Milton Friedman reference, is the ISM's been below 50 for almost 3 years, meaning companies have been cautious. Their visibility hasn't been great. But finally, the Fed is cutting, and we have an incoming administration that's seen as very business friendly. And so I think companies for the first time in a long time are going to be expansionary, feel confident doing mergers. I think this is a very good environment for small caps, mid caps, the financials, and cyclicals broadly like industrial. So I think it's going to feel a lot like the market broadens in 2025. Even as tech sort of keeps up with the market.
Now, I know you are a quintessential optimist, Tom, but I'm curious, where do you see the biggest risks to that forecast for next year?
Well, there's, the big foil in 2025 is going to be whether or not there's a policy error, and there can be two sources. One would be if the incoming administration does implement tariffs that are damaging to the economy, because we know that they'd be immediate effects, or if there are mass deportations that have some unknown impact on labor markets. The other source would be if the Fed becomes too inflation-focused and allows the labor market to weaken. And so we actually slip from the Fed sort of trying to support the economy to the Fed trying to save it. I think that would be a very adverse development.
Tom, one of the big themes that we just wanted to point out for viewers and listeners out there was this idea that cryptocurrencies will still be a focus, given the focus of the incoming Trump administration. We know that you're bullish on many aspects of crypto, but I wonder if you might take us through where you see the best relative performance in that crypto landscape in 2025.
Investors, at our firm for the last 8.5 years, we have recommended an allocation to crypto, including Bitcoin or Bitcoin and Ethereum. That allocation probably should be much higher in 2025 because the regulatory landscape is actually becoming more friendly. So I think Bitcoin still has to be at the core of someone's holdings, and I see Bitcoin getting to around 250,000 next year. But that would allow Ethereum, which is around 3,500 now, to probably do even better. Ethereum could get to 5,000 or 6,000 next year, and I think this is also probably the year where there's what we call alt season, where there's things like Solana and other altcoins do extremely well.
Tom, if you feel as though, and this is, again, relatively speaking, that Bitcoin is a commodity and that some of the companies that leverage those commodities could be in play as well, much like gold and gold miners, what types of companies are going to be the ones that benefit the most from that crypto expansion if it were to hypothetically happen?
2024 has given us insights. If we look at the best performing equities that are related to Bitcoin, what we would call leveraged stories to Bitcoin, meaning that they're either acquiring Bitcoin as a treasury asset or they're leveraged to the price, have done very well. And that would be things like MicroStrategy, Semler Scientific, and Coinbase. And there are other companies that are sort of doing what Michael Saylor would call the Bitcoin standard, like Mara. But I'd say in investors' portfolio, if they're especially a large cap focus, a company like MicroStrategy, gives you really good exposure to Bitcoin.
The first thing Tom Lee talked about was the ISM and how it's been below 50 for quite a long time. In fact, for more than the past year, which, if you don't know what the ISM is, a measurement of the manufacturing PMI. So manufacturing PMI has been contracting. He also stated this administration is very business friendly, which is going to inspire businesses and companies to involve themselves in mergers, acquisitions, more spending, expansions of business. And it's just going to be more business oriented, and not to mention the dovish Feds that cut 25 basis points in December. And now we're looking at another potential 25 basis points in January. And if not, we're kind of still looking like we're on par for 50 or more for the year of 2025. So it's looking very strong in this sense. Not to mention, PMI for services has been forever expanding, and the manufacturing PMI has been doing a lot better and has started to improve. The horizons will broaden in 2025, he has said, and cyclical stocks, financial, crypto, small cap, and mid cap are going to do well. But Dan Ives had also said that mega caps would do well. AI like AMD, Nvidia, Taiwan Semi, and stocks similar to that. We also have to look at Google, Tesla, Microsoft, Meta. These are all great stocks, and including Netflix. Very good mega caps to keep your eye on for 2025. The only real issue that we could potentially face for 2025 is policy issues like hitting countries with tariffs, which could impact the economy over here with import and export, and also mass deportation, which could affect the labor market. But other than that, that's really the only thing that would happen in this upcoming few years that could affect the economy in a negative way, because then the Feds would go from supporting the economy, like Tom Lee said, to trying to save it. And in a situation where mass deportation could affect labor rates or tariffs could affect import-export, then the Feds would have to either hike rates or potentially not cut the rates, or they would cut them more aggressively. But either way, it would deviate them from the current plan of support, which is not good. But that is a very unlikely scenario, as it's a very business-friendly administration. Tom Lee also said that financials in crypto would be very strong in 2025, and that Bitcoin could see a price of $250,000, meaning Bitcoin is going to 2.5x in the year 2025. If we get a 2 or 3x on Bitcoin, there's certain stocks you could look at, like Marathon. If Bitcoin does a 2x or a 3x, then there's certain stocks you could look at that will do well. Marathon is one of them, and of course, Coinbase is another. There's also sympathetic moves that will happen with Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, as well as SHIB, and of course, Dogecoin, which Elon Musk has supported a lot in the past. And Bitcoin is a commodity, and Michael Saylor knows this. Michael Saylor has been acquiring Bitcoin as a treasury asset for the company he co-founded called MicroStrategy. And like Tom Lee said, this is a stock that's going to give you much better exposure than even Coinbase, because the fundamentals of MicroStrategy are very strong and not wholly dependent on Bitcoin, although it gives you a lot of exposure to Bitcoin. And when Bitcoin does do what Tom Lee says it will, so if Bitcoin 2x's or 3x's in 2025, like Tom Lee said it's likely to do, that's really going to help out MicroStrategy a lot. And it's going to give them a lot of equity, a lot of profits, and a lot of financial gains to help the company out. But they're not solely dependent on Bitcoin or any crypto like Coinbase is. They already have a very strong, very fundamentally strong AI business and software that's involved in commercial, consumer, and government. So they don't need to completely rely on cryptocurrency. But this is the stock that Tom Lee says to buy because it's a good company and because it's got good exposure to Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin does go to 250 this year, then it's not out of the realm of possibility that MicroStrategy could very well see a 2x, maybe even a 3x return in the next 1 to 2, maybe 3 years. In fact, if Bitcoin 3x's, MicroStrategy very well could have a 50 to 100% return quite easily, because they have purchased so much Bitcoin as a treasury asset. Very strong purchase. I've been making a lot of money on MicroStrategy over the last few months. Puts are just consistently printing, and this is a great stock to buy for 2025. I'm going to show you guys a very powerful strategy to get into MicroStrategy in your portfolio. Sell cash secured puts, start generating very juicy premiums. So this way, when the time comes to get assigned, you will get in at a better price, or just keep collecting juicy premium, and then you'll be able to buy shares. But this is definitely a stock I would get into, and it's exactly the stock that Tom Lee recommended at the end of his video. Let me show you a strategy and how you can make very good premiums on MicroStrategy. But first, if all of this is confusing you, maybe you're new to trading and investing, or maybe you're just looking to retire early, or maybe you are just having a lot of trouble. I grew up in a Catholic household. My mom was very hard on me about helping others do the right thing. Just like my dad, he helps homeless veterans get off the street. And I told myself I would try to help others in the same way when I had the ability to do so. And that time came over the last couple of years, and I put together this system to help people just like you. I have students that have went from $8,000 to $40,000 and others that went from $300,000 to $800,000 in 6 months or less. If you guys would like this to be your success story, you guys can sign up at any time. I offer a full Discord training course and coaching. You can sign up at investorcorey.com. The link's in the information box below. But don't take my word for it. Let's take a listen to what my students Josh and Adam had to say.
Anyone who's thinking about joining is anyone can do this. It's just really like putting in the work and the effort to meet Corey halfway, but he will definitely get you there. I started with about $300,000 portfolio. Initially saw about between 60 and 70,000 within my first 6 weeks, which I was very excited about. So now I'm really excited to share that I've grown that $300,000 portfolio to well over 500,000. I'm definitely reaping the rewards now. Don't wait. I honestly can't thank Corey enough.
So I started with 15,000, right? I am now at $40,000. Okay. And I'm so proud. It feels, amazing to be able to share this, because I know that there's so many people that will do the same, right? You have to just trust Corey and trust what he's teaching and what he's offering, because he means so well.
So you heard what my students Josh and Adam had to say. All you have to do is go to investorcorey.com, click on training, scroll down. There'll be a video there to answer all of your questions that unfortunately I can't answer in this video, so there's not enough time. And then you'll be able to book a call with my team and I, so this way I can help you achieve your financial goals. I look forward to seeing you very soon. So here we can see we're looking at MicroStrategy. Now, they have not done very well on the previous 2 or 3 earnings. However, they did very well in February of 2024, and I anticipate 2025 is going to be very similar to that. As you can see, they're expected in February to report earnings at negative 12 cents. I believe it's going to be a little bit better than that, especially if the economy is better and especially if Bitcoin is better. If we look at their financials, they are doing decently on total revenue, but it's only $500 million a year, and they are slightly declining. Now, granted, the market has not been the greatest until this year, especially not until the second half of this year. However, if we look at pre-tax income, they're in the negative, as well as net income. Their EBITDA is also negative, but barely. Almost break even on EBITDA. They have about $4 billion in debt, and their assets barely cover their debt and liabilities. They're kind of at a break-even point right now, and their cash flow and their EBITDA are slightly in the negative. They have a price to sales of like 160, which is pretty high. So really, they need to improve their business model, and Bitcoin also has to do well. But there is a lot of hope for MicroStrategy. If Bitcoin was to not do too well, then MicroStrategy likely would be falling back into the 280 range, maybe a little bit lower. You also have to understand that the shares float is 200 million at an 83 billion market cap. 83 billion is roughly the same as PayPal. Look, 88 billion. Except PayPal has 1 billion shares float, which is why their price is 88. MicroStrategy's is 342. There is 1/5 of the shares float, so 5 times 80 is 400, which is what the price of PayPal would be, same market cap, if they had the same shares float. Meaning the price that MicroStrategy is right now would be similarly to getting PayPal for about $81 right now. So it's in line, sort of, just so you guys have an idea. But what I would do is I would sell cash secured puts on MicroStrategy, and you could sell 1 put at 310 and maybe 1 put at 300, or you could do a 300 and a 280, and you could collect juicy premium. So if you sell a 310 on MicroStrategy, let's say down here, and the stock drops, and you sell, let's say, another one here at 300, then you could roll out and down and roll this one out and down. And you can collect, quite honestly, $200, $300 a week on 10 or 15 delta, which in this situation would be closer to 280, meaning the stock would have to drop $60 in less than a week before you would even have any risk of losing money. But then you could just roll out and down again, collecting all of these premiums every single week, so that even if the stock starts going up and you have to roll out and up, all these premiums you're collecting, you could start acquiring shares and building your portfolio in MicroStrategy. You can also do the same thing if you have a small account with Leap option. So let me show you exactly how you could acquire Leaps and sell puts to acquire shares and juicy premiums. So here we are looking at MicroStrategy. First things first, we're going to go week by week selling puts. You can sell cash secured puts or you can sell margin secured puts, which are naked puts. They work the same way. You're still going to get assigned if the stock drops, but do not over leverage yourself if you do not understand what naked puts are. But either way, when we're selling puts on MicroStrategy, I'm going to sell some 310s, maybe some 300s. If we sell a 300 put going up to January 3rd, you can see it is a 14 delta and it is $3.65 to $3.90, which means you're going to make somewhere around $370 for one put. If we go down to 280, we can see that this is an 8 delta. Very safe, $200 per put. So if you sell these puts, just one put per week in a month, you can generate close to $1,000 or $1,200 a month. If you do this for 2 months and you make $2,400, well, then that's the equivalent of taking $24 off the stock, which means you essentially, if you get assigned at 280 in 2 months from now, then you'd be getting the stock for like 256. So you see how this can dollar cost average the stock for you. What I typically do is I will sell one at 310, then I will sell one at 300, and then I will sell two at 280. And I'll come down here and I will do one, and then two. We can see average price $13.52. So I'll do $13.55 just to get a little extra, and I'll hit preview. And then you'll see here, after it adds it all up, I will make about $1,352 per week. This will net me a decent amount of profit. Let me pull up my calculator. 1352 times 4, I'm generating $5,400 a month. If I do this for 2 months, it's $10,000. Then I can get MicroStrategy at a third off because I can buy, let's say, 100 shares. Let's say it's at $360. That's $36,000. I'll get it for $26,000 because the $10,000 in profits from the juicy premium, meaning I'm getting the stock at roughly $2.50, $2.60. Even if it goes to $400, I'm still getting it for $300, which is $30,000. So it's a big discount when you're selling puts. If you don't have the premium to do cash secured or margin puts, you could do put credit spreads. I recommend doing a 270, click here to sell. Then you go down to 260, click on the asking price. So if you don't have the money for cash secured puts or margin secured puts, naked puts, you can do a put credit spread. We're going to be safer. Click on the bid to sell 270 and then on the buy or the ask to buy 260. And you'll see right here that we'll make about $31, which is not the greatest. So what we'll do is we will go up maybe to 280 and see what that looks like, or 275. We'll sell 275, buy 265, $39, not a bad amount of premium. You can see it's still not the greatest premium. Might get 40 for it, but it's very safe. If we sell the 280 and buy the 270, we might get about $45 for this, which is pretty good. We're going to put up 1,000 to make $45, which is about 5% per week, 20% per month. If we were to do 2 of these, we're only using $2,000 capital. We make $100 a week. We're pretty close to it, like $80, $90, and it's on 2 spreads. So you can see here, if we did that, we would make about $90 a week on 2,000. So if you have a bigger account, maybe you have a $100,000 account or a $50,000 account, you could probably get filled a little higher, but we'll say 45, and this will give you about $225 a week. Not a bad way to make up $800 to $1,000 a month, only utilizing $5,000. Very low amount of premium or collateral. And we can also look at the calls going out to maybe June of 2025. You could buy a 60 delta, which would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 320. Get a nice $320 call, or maybe a $300 call, and you can do this for about $10,000 and sell covered calls against it. So you can get, let's just say we're going to play it the bullish way. We're going to get a 320 for $10,600, and every time you add one of those at the same strike price, you dollar cost average. So the stock drops, add another leap option, it gives you a dollar cost average between the two. For example, you pay $10,600 for one and $10,000 for the other. You have two at an average cost of $10,300. Then you'll be able to go back to January 3rd and you'll be able to sell covered calls. And let's say you want to sell a $400 covered call, $60 out of the money, you'll collect $300 juicy premium. So this is a way you can get into MicroStrategy, and Tom Lee recommends it, and so do I. They are heavily exposed to Bitcoin and also have a very fundamentally strong business, especially in a strong economy like we're about to have, or we're already beginning to see with this new administration that is focused heavily on business. If any of the things I talked about in this video are confusing, like I said, I offer a full Discord, training course, and one-on-one coaching. You guys can sign up at any time at investorcorey.com. MicroStrategy.com. The link's in the information box below. I look forward to seeing you in the Discord and on the next video. Take care of yourselves.